Namaskar, this is Akhilesh Bhargava. Welcome to Tit-Bits on Business and Finance with me. Let's talk about what we would call yet another boring corporate fraud. We call it boring because so many of them have been unearthed and so many of them have been discussed by us. But then, whenever a new fraud is unearthed, whenever yet another modus operandi for cheating of people and corporates is found out, it still shocks us. It shocks us because one again sees that one individual or a few privileged individuals manage to game the system such that the entire system colluded with them and thousands of crores of public money were looted. The last one that we discussed was the case of DHFL. The ED's reports say that the promoters of DHFL, which is Kapil Wadhawan and family, have cheated DHFL to the extent of 12,773 crores. They did that through a front of 79 shell companies, and for that they siphoned money by showing over 1 lakh bogus loan accounts. It was done so easily. KPMG says in its forensic audit report that this amount is not 12,773 crores, it is over 20,000 crores. The reality is, huge amount of money has been siphoned away. A recent report of the ED says that they have found assets worth over 3,000 crores owned by Kapil Wadhawan and his family, and this is money that has been siphoned away from the company. The total amount, as we said, is much more. ED's findings are to the tune of 3,000 crores plus. And what are those assets? The assets that ED has found are those which span the world, if you ask us. They find that he owns a 12,000 square feet plot of land in prime Melbourne, Australia, which the ED says is worth 1,000 crores. The ED says that Kapil Wadhawan owns a villa in Thailand, which is worth about 50 crores. They own flats, offices, numerous of them, in the UK and the US. In posh suburbs of Mumbai, which is Khar, Pali Hill, Juhu, they own a lot of properties. In Khar, he owns 4 apartments and a restaurant collectively valued at 150 crores. They own a villa in Juhu, they own numerous flats in Pali Hill, and he owns a mall in Bhandup which is said to be worth over 150 crores. And these are all monies siphoned away from DHFL. These are not their own monies. Further in the list, they own about 570 flats in Kurla, which are collectively valued at over 1,000 crores. These findings of the ED, these undisclosed assets of Kapil Wadhawan, these assets are not the complete story. They exclude his other assets, which have included high-end cars, huge jewelry, high-end watches, properties in and around Mumbai, and various others in Benami names. We think that the list has to be much more because we are talking about siphoning of funds of over 12,773 crores, and what has been found by the ED at the moment is a mere 3,000 crores. The ED also found that Kapil Wadhawan and his associates had been rigging the share prices of DHFL, and in that process, the ordinary unsuspecting investors have lost huge monies. When you look at these kind of assets, the question that comes is, how did it go on? And thus, these kind of corporate frauds have had certain very standard features, and those features are worth a discussion. The first one here, this asset base of over 3,000 crores of Kapil Wadhawan, we would think it is much more, did not get built overnight. It was built through a series of very well planned transactions, and they were planned in such a manner that either they were not detected or their colluders did not report them. The second thing is that this asset base again did not get created by one single transaction. It is not that Kapil Wadhawan took away money by one single check of 3,000 crores. This base of illegal loot of Kapil Wadhawan and family was built through hundreds of transactions which took place over many years. In fact, the ED says that this siphoning was done during the period 2010 to 2015, we would believe it started much earlier. The next is, when this kind of an illegal asset base is built in India and abroad, you involve a variety of criminal illegal transactions. Thus, you had round tripping, there was money laundering, there was hawala, there was tax evasion, there was benami deals, there were shell companies. All these were involved, put into deployment in order to siphon away funds on such a large scale. Of course, when you've had hundreds of such transactions over many years and where they span so many nations and countries, then you have involvement of many banks, and not surprisingly, none of the banks, neither in India nor abroad, raised any kind of a red flag when these kind of transactions, this kind of siphoning was taking place. Again, because there were transactions spread over many jurisdictions, over many countries, over many different authorities, many laws got violated. Tax laws got violated, FEMA got violated, Benami laws got violated, Companies Act got violated. Thus, it involved many laws and many authorities, and surprisingly, none of them were able to even detect it. There is, of course, collusion in this kind of a case rampantly. The collusion takes place between all those who ought to have raised a red flag, or as we say, it involved a situation where the dogs who were expected to bark never did bark. The collusion took place by auditors keeping quiet, independent directors keeping quiet, tax authorities not finding out this kind of a fraud, Ministry of Corporate Affairs not detecting it. Thus, without this kind of a rampant collusion, this kind of a build-up of huge illegal assets would not have taken place. The modus operandi was standard. It involved shell companies, benami companies, hawala transactions, bogus transactions, manipulation of books of accounts, build-up of overseas assets, round-tripping of funds. Every kind of tool in the illegal rule book, in the criminal rule book, was deployed, and thus you could build this kind of a asset base. According to us, the fraud size in this case is much more than 12,773 crores. It exceeds 20,000 crores. In fact, the initial findings had said that the amount of funds siphoned out of DHFL is to the tune of 35,000 crores. The investigations continue by all the regulators, criminal investigation agencies, and other authorities. We really still don't know whether they have come to the bottom of the investigation and whether the antecedents and the manifestation of the entire loot, the entire money that was siphoned away, has been unearthed for us to say that the loot is not just 3,000 crores in the hands of the Wadhawans, and that it is, and it could be much more. While that takes its own time and process, it is worth seeing what has been the position of all those who are involved in this particular scam, in this particular giant crime. The first one, who benefited the most? According to us, very clearly, it is the promoters of DHFL who benefited the most. They siphoned away all the money. And the others who benefited very marginally are all those colluders who were bribed by the promoters of the company in order to look the other side. And that would involve bankers, that would involve auditors who were paid handsomely, that would involve independent directors, and anybody else who colluded. The second, who suffered the most? According to us, it is the public, directly and indirectly. All those depositors who gave money to the company and who are losing it, they have suffered heavily. And then banks suffered, where public money is involved. Lenders like provident funds, pension funds are going to suffer. So it is the public finally, whether directly or indirectly, has suffered the most. Who got punished the most? According to us, the ones who got punished the most are the auditors. But then it is because the auditors were willing to sign bogus financial statements that the foundation for this entire fraud was laid, and thus their punishment is understandable. Who got punished the least, according to us, are those colluding bankers who knew the state of affairs and yet gave large loans to the company. Who went scot-free? The ones who are going scot-free in this scam, according to us, are the independent directors who actually are the dogs who did not bark, and also the netas and the babus who have benefited out of the scam but are nowhere named in the entire investigation. And finally, what got violated the most? Of course, the laws of India, the tax laws, the corporate laws, the laws related to securities like SEBI, Benami Act, etc. It is the law of the land which was mutilated and violated the most. We really hope that these kind of frauds are investigated and the perpetrators are punished in such a telling manner that at least for the foreseeable future, India does not have these kind of corporate frauds. At least we don't hear for after some time these kind of frauds which shock us even now. This is Akhilesh Bhargava signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.